Сэлгэр уужим орон зай. Хараа баясгах үзмжид харуулцтай. Хансаг давтагдшгүй өнгө төрөх, таныг илэрхийлэх төгс хийцлэл. Тав тухтай амьдрах орчин дизайны үүрэмц шийдэл. Байгаль орчин дээлтэй ногоон барилга концепц. Таны гэр бүл тав тухыг билүүлэн аз жаргалтай амьдралыг бадраах үеэс үе дүрлэгдэх үнэт дөө. Тав тухайн элчин захиалганда урж байна.
King Tower Apartment.
Сайн байцгаана уу хүн үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Швейцарын олон улсын Mэнса грэжжэ ийм төрлийн бус байгууллагын байгуулсан сурвалжлагч Matteo Bellinelli оролцож байна.
Matteo Bellinelli Швейцарын холбооны улсын Mэнса грэжжэ төрлийн бус байгууллагын тэргүүн. 1950 оны 12 дугаар сарын 10-нд Швейцарын Лугано хотод төрсөн. Франц улсын Парис хотын их сургууль болон Америк нэгдсэн улсын Сакраменто хотын жилийн их сургуулийг тус философч мэргэжлэр сурч төгссөн. Итали, Франц, Англи, Испани, Герман хэлээр ярьдаг. 1975 оноос эхлэн радио телевизийн салбарт ажиллаж, ажил амьдралынхаа ихэнх хугацаанд Швейцарын Итали хэлний төв телевизэд сэтгүүлч, редактор, найруулагч, баримтат киноны найруулагчийн ажлыг хийж байжээ. Нийт 20 орчим баримтат болон уран сайхны кино найруулж бүтээсэн ба Локерногийн баримтат киноны наадмын тэргүүн шагнал Алтан ирвэст нэр дэвшиж байжээ. 2002 онд анх Монголд баримтат киноны зураг авалт хийхээр ирснээс хойш өнөө хүртэл Монгол улстай холбоотой байж хэд хэдэн баримтат кино хийсэн ба Монголын алслагдсан сумдын хөдөөгийн хүүхдүүдэд чиглэсэн ядуурлыг бууруулах, боловсролыг дэмжих, экологийн боловсрол, байгаль хамгааллын чиглэлээр ажиллахаар сэтгэл шулуудан Mэнса грэжжэ төрийн бус байгууллага сэтгэл нэгтэй нөхдийн хамтаар үүсгэн байгуулж Монголын хөдөөд олон төсөл хөтөлбөрийг санаачлан хэрэгжүүлж эхэлсэн. Монголын төлөө хийсэн нөр их ажлыг нь үнэлж ерөнхийлөгчийн зарилгаар 2018 онд найрамдал медалаар шагнасан. Овс болон Баян Улгийн аймгийн хүндэт иргэн болсон.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to our talk.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
And you are a journalist, and we love to share in terms of what we do. But however you have somehow attracted to Mongolia, please tell us what brought you to Mongolia and why you do what you do.
My profession as a journalist, but mainly as a film director, brought me to Mongolia exactly 20 years ago. This is my 20th trip to Mongolia. I came here in 2002 as a director for Swiss television to make a documentary on the Swiss surgical team. Swiss doctors had been coming to Mongolia for several years, working in some of the UB hospitals, number one in particular. Dr. Sergilen was then directing it. And these doctors came to do surgery in the hospitals, to help out, to bring new methods of surgery, new equipment.
Particular surgery?
Sorry?
Particular surgery or in general?
General surgery, from pediatry to whatever. I thought that experience of the Swiss surgical team was very important. I'm one of those who feel that a country like Switzerland, which is rich enough to be able to help other people, should do it, and should do it more. So I think that cooperation is an essential role and mission that we have in the Western world. Not too many people share this opinion any longer, unfortunately, but I think it was important and is still very important. So I came along with this group of surgeons. We did this documentary, very interesting. But of course, by so doing, I discovered UB, a bit of Mongolia, and the tragic reality that the country was facing then. We're talking about 20 years ago. Nothing much has changed. UB has changed a lot, but the main problems still remain. In particular, we were aware of the fact that many herders, young herders in particular, had lost their job, basically. They were not able anymore to stay on the land, be it the Gobi Desert or the steppe, and function as the only thing that they could do, be herders. There were so many coming to the city, not finding, of course, any job. They had no formation, whatever, no education to be anything but herders. And so we felt that it would have been important to see if it could be possible to bring some of these people, some of these young people, back to the steppe and return to be herders, but give them the means to be herders. We found some help here, we found some cooperation, we found some information. And in 2003, I came back and did a documentary, which I call La Mensa e il gрэжжэ. La Mensa means the popular kitchen where poor people go and are fed by whoever is generous enough to feed them. And we saw there hundreds of people, particularly young children, poor, living in the streets. We also understood immediately that, as I said, it's not enough to feed people. It's nice to educate them, but it's also nice to give them a job. So that's what we started to do. We bought a herd. We selected a family, took the family with the new herd back to the Batsumber area, and we started our project there. The documentary had a huge success in Switzerland. People called me and say, how can we help? And I said, well, you know, I'm a rather well-known figure there. And I said, if you trust me, send me some money, and that's all we can do to continue this idea. Well, I received so much money, relatively speaking, of course, that I had to call everybody and say, listen, I cannot handle this money alone. We have to create an NGO. And that's the way we started. Through a documentary, through television, through the generosity of people, mostly women, I must say. And that's the way we started. From one herd, they became 5, 10. Now we have distributed almost 50 herds, first in the Batsumber area, then in the hooves area.
Herdsmen, you mean cows?
Cows, but particularly cows, if needed and necessary, whenever needed and necessary. Of course, some camels or horses to deal with the herds, but in particular muttons and sheep. In a number, large enough number, 60, 70 animals, that in 2-3 years they can double the animals, keep the same number of animals, give us back the same number of animals, and so on and so on. So an initial investment allows a number of further investments, and from one, now we're up to about 50 herds. Again, they're not gifts, and people must be responsible. And those herdsmen who were not responsible were deprived of their animals, because it's a matter of responsibility, of mutual engagement,
you feed
of education.
You use it,
you need the meat, the wool, whatever, fine.
Milk, whatever.
But give back the animals.
So you did it in Batsumbersum first, then you made documentary, and the documentary brought success.
That's
and
right.
People start to support, donate, and with the money you go again.
Exactly.
And in that way you are, this time is your 20th trip to Mongolia.
That's right.
This time.
That's right.
And you shifted a bit from Batsumbersum, which is close to Ulaanbaatar,
right.
to more western IMAX in Moscow.
That's right.
In Ofs and Bayingulgiamak. Please tell us what are you doing, say, in Bayingulgiamak now?
We moved away from Batsumber because it's too close to the city.
Yes.
By that I mean that there are other NGOs bigger and richer than ours that can deal with this area. There are so many. But so few away from UB, very few in Wollongong and practically none in the Bayinulgi area. So we selected them through the help of the then Swiss consul, Marcus Dubach, who had been living here for 20 years. He spoke perfect Mongolian. So we went first up to the Uvs area, and we selected a number of people to help. And then, again, as I said, further away, where nobody really was and still is, and I'll get to that in a moment. Now, the interesting thing is that when you do this and you meet people and you meet families, you meet children, and you understand that these children, not only they must be fed, but they must be educated. And at times we saw that the education was difficult for some of the children, nomadic children in particular. Where did they go to school? Where were they left by their parents at the beginning of September and picked up at the end of May? Some of the schools were very poor and run down. And so we said, maybe we should try to be more effective. And we started building schools, kindergartens, and schools, and dormitories, so that these children and the children of the Bag and the Sum in which we were operating could have better schools, better schooling, more hygiene, more efficient, warmer.
How you made, with which material? It should be a very expensive job.
Well, it is an expensive job. My
For
brother
how
is
many
an
children,
sorry.
For how many children seats?
Basically, 100 children in every school or kindergarten.
Okay, and your brother was, sorry?
My brother is an architect. So I said, now you come with me to Mongolia, we go to see these places, you make a nice new project, and we show the people in Mongolia that schools can be built in a different way. They must not be Russian cubes, Soviet schools.
Yes.
They can be different.
Yes.
They can be open, they can be on one floor.
Yes.
They can have a lot of light.
Yes.
We must use new materials.
Yes.
We must save energy.
Yes.
And so he designed a model for schools which we've been replying consistently around Mongolia. The government of Bэлlinelli has asked us to have the free access to our projects, to our plans, and they've built 2 more kindergartens exactly like ours, built in the same way.
Which summons in Bэлlinelli, and how many similar schools or kindergartens you have made?
Now, in the Bэлlinelli area, we've built we helped building 1 school and a completely new kindergarten.
Okay,
Plus,
in the IMEC center?
No, outside. Again, we don't want to be
Very
in
remote.
Olgi in the center.
Okay.
We selected 2 very far away areas. In Kokotel, who is the last village before going to the Sacred Mountains, Tavanbog. It's the last village. Tourists must pass through Kokotel to go to those mountains. Very secluded country. When we got there 15 years ago, there was no electricity, no Wi-Fi, nothing. Really poor. The school was run down. We fixed the school. We built a cultural center, a gathering for people to meet and discuss. And then later on, we found out that they absolutely needed a new kindergarten. And so we built this new first kindergarten for 100 children, 4 different classrooms, the Mэнsa, the feeding place, the kitchenette, and that's it.
How was the heating system?
The heating system is by coal.
Okay.
The usual, unfortunately, nothing else. No electricity was possible. Solar energy is not possible there. So unfortunately, we still have to retain some of the old techniques. Hopefully sooner.
But with better insulation, so that they lose.
But with much better insulation. We had a German expert coming to the school, coming to the plan and say, okay, we must do this, 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 and this. This is the insulation we need. And so this is what we've been teaching also the local people, how to build, how to structure.
How responsive they were, how much they were learning.
Apparently they responded well. They worked rather well. Now when it comes to long-term engagement and responsibility, that's different, both for the institutions and the politicians and for the entrepreneur. They like to get the money, they like to be paid, but when I tell them, now you go back and fix here, here, and there, they disappear. They don't show up.
No maintenance.
No maintenance. And they do need maintenance, of course. The weather there is extreme in the summer, in the winter.
So have you visited the first school after many years?
Oh, we've been visiting the school every year that I come. So I see the progresses and the...
How's the condition now?
The condition, well, it's still pretty good, but still some faults, some weaknesses that were built in from the beginning are still unresolved.
So it's great that you have helped 2 sums with the schools, I understand. Then it's kind of hard infrastructure. How about, to your perspective, the soft infrastructure there? Teacher, the way they teach, materials, how did you find it?
Well, when it comes to the Ministry of Education Affairs, I'm a lot more optimistic, at least from the outside, from what I see. First of all, we have met very responsible teachers and directors of kindergarten and school.
In these 2 schools?
In all the schools we met. And I must say that the 2 principals and directors of the school we built in Ulanhat and the kindergarten in Kokotel are led by women. And they are a remarkable woman. Very engaged, very motivated, very responsible. Really the heart and the engine of the community. I would not say the same thing for most of the men I've met in our work. Sincerely, I must say that if this country moves forward because it has wonderful women, wonderful mothers. They take care not only of the family, but also of the community, which is wonderful. So when it comes to schools and kindergartens, they have all the materials that they supply that they need. We don't need to work on that. It is important to know that we build the schools fully ourselves, and then we pass it on to the Ministry of Education. It's not our property. It's the state property. And they must, our agreement, our signed agreements mean that they will run the school as a normal other public school with their own means for whatever, salaries, coal, electricity, whatever, supplies.
Basically, you did what they could not make.
Basically, we gave them the structure. Now they must be carrying on with their infrastructure. And it seems to be working. So what we also wanted to do is to take care of minorities. I come from the minority part of Switzerland, the Italian part. The Germans are 5 million, speaking German. The French, 3 million. We are 500,000.
500,000. Okay.
So I feel that I come from a minority. And I feel that I must try to give as much as possible to other minorities. I understand their situation. So Bэлlinelli is a Kazakh region, Muslim region, and that village is the farthest away.
They speak only Kazakh?
Only Kazakh.
Not Mongolian?
They do also speak Mongolian, but their language is Kazakh.
Yes.
And
but
the
without
religion
this
is
Mongolian state language knowledge, very limited chance to pass the exam for public officer, etc.
That's one of the problems. That's one of the, but we'll get to that in a moment because one of our projects, which is very significant to me, is scholarships.
Okay.
University scholarships.
Oh, I see.
So we selected areas in which nobody else would go, and the other school in the Bэлlinelli area is in Ulanhad, which is the only village which is a Mongolian village, Mongolian-speaking village in a Kazakh-speaking the region. So we felt that they needed support. That's where we built the new school and fixed up the dormitories. If we come to scholarships, this is the inevitable third step: work, education, schools, but then what? Once they are 18, 19, jobs. Right. Unqualified jobs, is it absolutely inevitable that they must have the most unqualified job, or is it possible to help them and to take them to universities in Hovd, in UB? So we started this with the collaboration, wonderful cooperation with Zurich Foundation.
Okay.
We started many years ago, 15 years ago already, a scholarship program for students coming from our poor regions, but of outstanding standards.
Okay.
So we took the best, we took them here, we helped paying the full tuition, for example, or even more. And by so doing, we've selected many women in particular, many girls, fewer men, again, less responsible. And we told them, this is a great chance for you. We will pay the 4, 5, 6 years of your university, but you must commit yourself to finish it. And we try to invest, quote unquote, in students who have chosen a social discipline.
Disadvantage.
We don't want lawyers, but we want teachers, we want doctors, social assistants. And so far we have helped many women in particular to become teachers. Some have remained here, some have gone back to the country. The latest of our graduates is a young woman, now she's 23, 24. She graduated in May after 6 years of medicine.
Yeah,
she's now here in UB. She is a physician, a general doctor. She will start working. She wants to continue and specialize in dermatology, but now she has a job and she will be a doctor. That's what we need, I think. That's what this country needs.
Here
professional
in UB,
people
a job.
Here in UB for the time being, but she's looking forward to going back. One of our students was a psychiatrist, and now she's working back in UFS, in Ulango. That's what we would like, to create a strong basis of good students, good professionals.
Okay, I got your concept. It's a great jobs you have been doing. Thank you for that. At least making few families, not only a few, a lot, hundreds of them, having more lights in their future life. Now let's talk about your observations as a journalist, as a film director, the way Mongolia is changing. How do you find it? Is it the way we want, or is it the right way? How the psychology from those perspectives you see the changes in Mongolia, in particular in the rural areas?
As a foreigner, it is always difficult to fully understand what really happens within a country like Mongolia. I don't speak the language, so it is difficult always to mediate what I see and what I hear. It is difficult to understand the culture and even the human approach that people have towards me. Often they see me, as I said, as someone who has a lot of money, while I do not have personal money, and I'm here to be generous and help. No, that's not the point. So at times it is difficult to understand each other. It has taken many years to trust each other fully, on the one hand. On the other hand, it is always difficult not to be condescending as a European to come here, and it is, we always have the temptation to say, do like this, do like that. Things should be done this way. I've learned the hard way that people should do what they want to do in their own way. In this respect, I think that there's been an intelligent development, and people are starting to understand that they must take their own responsibility, and they must not wait from the top to be helped, be it the state or an NGO or whatever. I think there's more understanding of this need to engage and work yourself to achieve whatever you want to achieve. When it comes to the general attitude that I perceive, nothing much has changed in the last 20 years. I see the same politicians or the same parties producing new politicians who seem to be exactly like the old politicians. I don't think that corruption has decreased. I don't think that bureaucracy has decreased. I don't think that a real engagement for social change and development has increased much. But I'm saying all this from the outside and from the little I've seen. I might be wrong. I think that this country has been relying very much on new Western values and Western economic support, but that nothing has been done to really adapt this to new Mongolian ways of finding your own way. Basically, but I'm being very rough in my analysis,
Please do it.
The country has gone from a Soviet type of society led by the state to a different type of society led by a new class, political class, economic class, which basically serves the same interests. There is nothing much that goes from the state to the people, back to the bottom. A lot remains at the top. I would welcome a better and larger distribution of wealth, of real intervention of the state for the really needed social and educational and when it comes to health in particular, needs of the country. I've noticed that UB has a large number of new restaurants, nice and expensive, wonderful cars, beautiful boutiques, beautiful women and men with beautiful European cars. Therefore, a large, new, high class of people. Where does the money come from? Good question, I think. Do they redistribute that money through work and through development for the country? I don't know. I still see a lot of poor people in the country, in the steppe. Nothing much really has changed the condition of the herders, for example. I'm afraid that what they're seeing through the television out in the steppe is a distorted vision of the world. They see the European world, they see the Chinese world, but of their own world they have very little knowledge. And of what they could aspire to also, they have very little knowledge. I might be wrong, but I really feel that this country has not learned from the possibilities of development, of economic and social development, as much as it should have. And that the politicians, the political world, has not done enough to truly be, how can I say, at the disposal of the profound needs of the deepest and lowest and most forgotten class of Mongolians.
What can we do first to change all this? Priority, our approach, political kind of sentiment in there?
I think that the only possible answer, or the first one, is education, of course. It's to create a new generation of young people who are aware of what a state and nation means, of what a nation really needs to develop in a modern but not copied version of a state. We've met through our scholarships, through Zurich Foundations, tens and tens of wonderful young people. This morning we had a meeting with 2 girls who asked us to engage themselves on a voluntary basis in our projects, to go to our schools in the remote areas of Bэлlinelli and meet with the parents, meet with the students, meet with the teachers, spend time with them, teach them what they know, learn from them what they don't know, and to try to make a synthesis and progress and go forward together. I have, of course, as I suppose all of us, great hope in the new generations. And they must be aware that this country needs a lot of personal voluntary investment of fatigue, of work, of passion, of engagement. But volunteer.
Yes.
Volunteer. Of course, they need a job. We must try to provide them with the best educational possibility and best possible training job. But also it must be a personal participation, a voluntary participation that leads to the best way of dealing, of facing the other person.
Okay. Also, the other set of questions, our final part, I want to talk to you after learning about what you do, what you were doing. Journalist is always journalist, as you said. What would be the role of media in this particular circumstances, where, as you said, we should create not copied state, but an original nation state? What would be the role? What the journalist is supposed to do? Media is supposed to do?
I think that media must be, as it has been for many years, not everywhere, but I've noticed that it has been decreasing everywhere, actually. Media should be the conscience of a country. The journalists, the directors, the filmmakers, the reporters should engage themselves in denouncing what does not work within a country and what could be done in order to make things better, at the highest and at the lowest level. I think that the media should start from the bottom to be engaged in understanding which are the basic fundamental needs of the population, be it in school, in health, in environment. We should maybe mention a little bit something about the environment. But the role of media is not to celebrate the powerful, it's not to celebrate the successes. That's fine, they're part of life and of progress. But the role of the media is to show that things are still, that many things are still have to be done, to be worked on. And in order to be so, the media should be able to make propositions, to suggest solutions. Journalists should be engaged in finding, by studying, by researching, by confronting, by facing one another and facing with the population, which are the most important needs, and suggests solutions. Otherwise, if media is a celebration of what happens, of the Prime Minister of China who comes to UB and has meetings with the politicians, fine. That's information, but that's not the role of television as such. Television is information and education, and that goes through hard work.
Information and education. Okay, very interesting. And a very, very high content input, you said. Not celebrating successes, but bringing the issues to be solved. In that particular sense, how can we motivate journalists to do these jobs when they are so dependent on employer, which in many cases are connected with politicians? You see these particular circumstances,
of course,
where the young democracy is going through.
I know it's a very delicate subject, because if you search for the truth and tell the truth, you may lose your job. Basically, that's said. Basically, that's said. Okay, but my question is it worthwhile keeping a job that doesn't allow you to be free? Is journalism or television making just done for your own pleasure and success? Or should it be worth for the community? So if you're not doing something that will change the life of your country, but simply will add to your own ego, pleasure, or simply keeping alive, which is, of course, most reasonable, I respect that. But maybe there should be within our world of media some people who will take the responsibility of looking ahead and be courageous, running some risks if necessary, but saying, hey, listen, the truth is that our society is not developing the way it should. That we still have too many evils that are among us. It's not working.
You have been working as a journalist, TV, and filmmaker for many years. What was the most difficult choice in your life, professional life, to choose? What was to choose something that which was very much challenging?
I've always thought that my job as a journalist, as a film director, was to be aimed at, as I said, inform, but in an intelligent way, in order that what I would show through my documentaries would, as again, educate people. My choice is my toughest choice, but in reality it was very simple. Is that at the moment in which televisions in Europe became, most of them were state-owned, and most of them are state-owned. But then all of a sudden, private televisions came in. Private television meaning economic interest, commercial interest, personal interest in making television and in doing and in creating programs. And so when it was a matter of selecting, of choosing, if I wanted to remain within a state-owned television, which had a very clear mandate, inform and educate, be part of our society in a responsible way, use the state money to inform and educate, or go on to a more lucrative job as a journalist, as a free reporter for a private television, I said, no, I don't want to be conditioned or involved in a situation in which economic interest or commercial preoccupations are more important than making my own job and telling the truth. I stayed with the public television. I don't regret it. It has changed immensely, our state television, unfortunately, but I'm glad that I was faithful to myself in what I did as a director and what I'm doing as a man.
Great answer. Great answer. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
It was very interesting to talk to you, not only about Mongolia, but also about the profession.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Хүн төлөвчтэй өнөөдөр манай de facto нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Швейцарын иргэн Монголд олон жил тусалж хөдөө хүүхдүүдийн сургууль байгуулахад оролцож байгаа хүмүүжүүлэхэд нь оролцож байгаа ноён Matteo Bellinelli оролцлоо.